We'll call to order the Homewood Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting for September 2022. First item on the agenda is the call to order. Second is roll call.
All right. Mr. Hortley.
Here.
Mr. Alsabrook.
Here.
Mr. Perkle.
Here.
Ms. Hand.
Here.
Mr. Foley.
Here.
Mr. Roberts. And Mr. Gear. The quorum is present.
Next item on the agenda are the meeting minutes approval from July 7th, 2022. One note on the agenda is the August minutes are not prepared yet, so we'll just be commenting and approving the minutes for July. So everybody had a chance to review those minutes. Take a motion to approve by consensus.
A second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like the ayes have it. Next item on the agenda are communications or reports from the chair and vice chair. I do not have anything to report, so
Okay.
vice chair have anything to report?
No, I do not.
So we will move on to old business. So we have one case on this agenda, so that is BZA case SV 220807 115 Riviera Road. If you're here to present this case, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. There's also a sign-in sheet at the podium, if you'd please fill that out as well.
Hi, yes, I'm Anne Marie Tuliadis. Not really sure exactly. I'm representing myself, so please guide me on how I should do this.
And then your address as well.
115 Riviera Road.
Okay. I think if you just want to present your case in terms of the hardship that's before you.
Sure. We moved to Homewood 7 years ago. We live at 115. Like I said, we have 3 kids and a lot of things going on in our house. And our porch, when we moved in, we realized that it was not going to be big enough, but we didn't really have the funds at that time to redo it or do anything about it. But we've never been able to even sit out there as a family. It's too small to put the 5 of us around a table. There's not the table. The existing porch is not big enough to put a table that all 5 of us can sit at. The house is a big size house. The lots are, there's 2 lots together for this particular house. So for it to have a back porch that size it's really hard for us to do anything out there. So basically it's been just where our dogs have sat. And we'd like for it to be something that we can enjoy. And I think I mentioned, I don't know if this has a bearing on it, but our parents are next door. We have, we've had a letter submitted to the board about that there's no, my family owns the house next door, so we're basically backing up to, that's where the variance would be the border that's, or the lot that's shared with where my parents live and that our family owns. So we're just asking that we can extend it another 5 feet from the fence line, which would basically double the size of the screened-in area, and we would make we're basically going to make a pavilion style. Not that that matters, but it's going to be something that will be really attractive to go with the house, and will not be seen from the road. So it's really just seen from our, from our view. It'll see only people who will really even see it. I don't know what else would be pertinent.
This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak on the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Does not appear that anybody would like to speak on the case, so I'll turn this case over to the board for questions.
ask on your decking that I've seen in one of your pictures here that's up against the fencing there. Is that proposed to stay currently, or do you have any plans for that deck and the addition?
Our plans will be to reinforce that retaining wall, and then to probably, the decking is very old and really rotting out, so we'll just put it with some decking that will be the kind that doesn't, the manufactured wood. So that's what we're planning on doing. We're planning on leaving it kind of as it is, because that does add another 3 feet towards the fence, of 3 or 4 feet where we can, we have our grill out there and everything. So we plan on continuing that area, but just putting putting manufactured wood up there, just replacing it.
And was that existing when you purchased the deck?
The deck, yeah. We haven't done any of that. Yeah, it's been there, so.
Mhm. Okay. So what staff is pointing out is that a deck is considered an accessory structure, so that
Okay.
too cannot be built. We've got two things. There's the zoning ordinance and setbacks to consider. Then there are building codes, which are more restrictive. You're not allowed to build anything within 2 feet of your property line. That's a structure. So the deck, if we were to consider the variance, we would also have to consider that would be addressed as well.
So if you've got something that's rotten, though, that would be, that you, like, I guess I'm not understanding, like, replacing it with something that would be more sturdy, even though that would be still considered building on it?
That too would need a variance.
Okay, so it'd be a separate variance?
Yeah, and it would be a more, I guess you'd be asking for more than what's been publicized. So
Okay.
you likely need to carry that over, or
Well,
proffer that
yeah.
the deck's removed.
Well, that's a separate, like, the deck, the porch would not extend to the decking, so we could leave that. I wish my builder was here, but he apparently is not, so he could speak to this. But no, we hadn't even, discussed it. When you asked me about it, it was because I know that the shape it's in, eventually we will have to replace it, but we won't. Now the plan is to just speak to the porch itself.
Remind me, what are the dimensions of the porch right now, and what will it be?
I don't have that information. Is that not in there in your paperwork? Sorry, he's got all the paperwork and he's just not here tonight, so.
Well, I guess, like,
I think
I'm having a hard time locating it.
we did the square footage, and I think it was going to be doubled it when he added up the interior square footage from what it is now. But I don't have that information right in front of me.
So I guess at least towards the fence, you're adding an extra 8 feet. Is that correct?
And it's an odd shape. I think
Yeah.
you'll have the survey there, so it's really kind of a weird shape.
Yeah.
But we would, of course, and it would remain in a weird shape because of the line of the property, the way the property is extended. It would not be a rectangular shape
Yeah.
porch to comply with the 5 feet,
Mhm.
so. I think he included pictures. Do y'all have pictures of it? We submitted pictures. That's what we want. That's our desire, yeah. Yeah, so it's just open. Yeah. And we submitted pictures of our original porch as well. I don't know, okay, there we go. That's the pool. All right, here's the porch. That's the decking that I was talking to you about. There's the dogs inside, you can see. So we'd come out, if you stop, can you stop on that slide? We would come out, you know, to the 5 feet, but then it would be at an angle because we can't go any further than the 5 feet. So basically, from the corner, it would come out a few feet and then go straight back and then in. So it would be a very interesting shape, but it would add the footage that you can see we can't even put our sofa really inside. I mean, you can't, the sofa's outside, you can't do, there's nothing you can do inside the porch, it's too small. And it would go straight out from there, it wouldn't extend towards the pool area, it would just go straight out and then cut back towards the house.
We may not know this, but do you know how close your adjacent property home is to the property line?
How close our property is?
To your property line to the neighbor, I think your mother lives
It's
there.
my parents, yeah.
You don't know how close
They're,
Carport
if you go
is?
back to the fence, that fence is the property line?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
fence is the property. Well, the gate is on the other side of the fence. So there's like maybe another foot or two on the other side of that fence, and then there's a wire gate because it slopes down.
And then her carport starts.
No, it's their backyard.
Oh, okay, got
It's
it.
their whole backyard. Their carport is where that little
Mhm.
green egg is.
I got
It's
it, got
on
it, got it.
further that way. Yeah, they have a carport.
Got it, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, if I had a pointer, I could show you exactly where it's gonna be, but basically it's gonna come out 2 feet, kind of where the corner of that individual chair is, a little bit to the right, like where the little table is behind it, and then just goes straight out. And then across where the pot is. So speak to your original question, Mr. Perkle, it will not overlap the decking. We'll deal with that another time.
I would just like to bring up that staff is recommending that if we were to approve this, we would approve it contingent on removing the old decking that's 5 feet off of the property line, because it's not in, it's not the current building code. Is that
So what
an
would you
issue?
suggest putting in there?
Landscape or something that's, I don't know, kale, or what would,
In replace of
Sod.
removing the deck.
Right, yeah, it would have to be some sort of impervious surface. Pervious surface, I'm sorry. So sod.
Oh, so build it up from there? So build it up from the ground, because it's like 6 feet, 7 feet off the ground.
Yeah, and since it's that tall, it is actually supposed to meet the setbacks for the house, which would be 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
When a deck is low to the ground, it can extend to 5 feet from the front,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing can go
Right,
in that 5.
right.
So, you said you were going to request a variance later to replace the deck, but you're only going to be able to replace the 2-foot mark.
Okay.
You can't go any closer than
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
I just didn't want you to be hit with it, blindsided.
yeah. No, it's good for me to know that. I mean, we bought the house this way. We didn't put the deck in or anything.
Right.
That was already,
Yeah, and I believe the builder had actually said that it was to be removed.
but yeah,
That wasn't shown on plans,
okay.
and I was wanting to make sure.
Yeah,
that was still-
that's good to know. Yeah, well, we'll just have to deal with that later then. Right now, we'll just talk about the, the actual porch itself, and then see what we can do with the other leg.
Yeah, the deck would need to be removed.
Right, which is no problem because it's falling apart.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's absolutely falling apart, so. No, we'd have no problem with that, building it up. I would actually love to have something more natural than a decking anyway, so.
I motion to approve BZA case 22-08-07-1. Oh, with the condition that the deck be removed.
So the deck being removed, okay.
All right. Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
No.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
No.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has not been approved. There were 2 no votes.
So, sorry?
Said your case was not approved, there were 2 no votes required.
Okay, so what do we do now?
You can talk to your builder or designer about possible other solutions that may be more amenable to the board and resubmit.
What's the basis of the non-approval, just so I can know what direction we need to go? Like, why did people say no?
We're not here to discuss that.
So but I don't know how to resubmit it.
You can call staff tomorrow and we can kind of talk through maybe what some of the
What
issues
was,
might be.
what people were thinking?
Right, maybe.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because it'd be helpful to know why, that seems only fair if you're saying no, because we went through all the hoops to get here. Okay,
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is, next item on the agenda is new business, so BZA case SV 220902, 114 Havenwood Court. If you're here to speak on the case, please step forward. State your name and address for the record. Also fill in information at the podium.
My name is Jared Bussey. My address is 1604 28th Avenue South in Homewood. I am the architect representing the owner here, and we are going to be renovating and adding on to this property. We are doing a second-story addition. That addition is not part of the variance. That second-story addition will comply with all the setback requirements that exist. We're here for 2 variances on existing conditions that we would like to maintain and just improve or modify. The first, there's an existing covered porch on the front of the house. It's only 3 feet deep, that is over the setback line. We're requesting that we can maintain that condition and build a new covered porch that's no deeper, but can replace what's there because it's falling down. The second, and I hope you've got the pictures. Yeah, the one on the bottom right is helpful. So there's a garage in the front right that we're going to be conditioning and expanding into on the first floor. Not going to change the footprint of the existing house at all, but obviously if you were to grow into that garage, you're going to have a head height problem because the roof is lower than the main roof. So our ask is that we're able to just raise that roof up, the height of that red shaded area, 3.5 feet or so, to be flush with the existing main roof. The second story is going to sit on top of all this, but we went to great lengths to squeeze it in and make it comply. So those are our 2 requests. I was here last month with this, for the same house. We were doing more of a true 2-story, if you remember, and we didn't get accepted on that. We had some concerns from neighbors, and so I updated the plans and actually went to the neighbors and met with 4 of them, 2 on each side, and we spent, several minutes with each of them talking and just explaining what we're now asking for. Showed them the plans. I showed them a new, more modest elevation. It was similar to the previous one, but it was just more scaled down. The 2 concerns they really had was parking. They were concerned about people parking on the street, even if we could get the 2 cars in the current driveway. And their second concern was style. They just wanted something a little more traditional, appropriate for the street. So we're happy to add a parking pad. So we're expanding. This is not really part of the variance, but we're expanding the parking pad in the front yard to really get plenty of room for the 2-car requirement. And then we really redesigned the whole thing to just have a little more arts and crafts scale and proportion to it, and just really lower the overall height. We are, the last one was 6 feet below the max. We're another couple of feet below the max height with this. So we're trying to be modest, trying to fit in the scale of the street. I sent all this back to the neighbors just in their mailbox. I did get feedback from one that it was a good move and was appreciated. So that's what I've been doing the last month, but I'm done.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to step forward and speak on the case, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and also fill in the form.
Hi, my name is Anna Altstam. I'm one of the neighbors. I live at 113 Havenwood Court, and I don't have any objection to this current plan. I just wanted to be in person to thank the board for listening to our complaints with the last plan, because we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I will open the case up to the board for questions.
No additional questions here. Thanks to Mr. Bussey for checking with the neighbors and working through it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, looks really good.
Thanks.
Okay. I motion to approve BZA case 22-09-02.
Second.
All right. Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you, appreciate it.
The next item on the agenda is BZA case SV 220903-306 La Playa Place. If you're here to present the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. There's also a sign-in sheet to write down the same information.
Okay. Trey Goldstein, address 1527 Roseland Drive, Homewood. We're making a request for variance to put in a therapy pool on the right side of the home. It is going to be located behind a loggia wall that's going to be approximately 8 feet tall. There's approximately 20 feet of elevation change from the street to where this courtyard is located. So the pool is not visible from the street. Approximate pool size is 20 feet by 10, approximate depth of 5 feet.
This is a public hearing. If you'd like to step forward and talk to the case, please do so at this time. Does not appear that anyone is here. to speak, so I will open up the case to the board for questions.
So what we're discussing, Trey, is that we're concerned about the area around the pool being, in the nook, being considered an accessory structure as well as the pool itself, which would throw the 49% number over the allowed percentage for the entire parcel, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Because you are gonna deck it, right?
It'll have pool paver of some kind, yes.
Yeah, and that number wasn't included in, you had the breakdown of the, and we don't have anything for the deck. So I'm concerned about that.
Is there an option to do, if this is even allowed, a retention to help for that on this site?
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely an option to do it, but if you add in the accessory structure, you're still over the limit, and we can't
Sure.
prove that.
You know, it's possible that you can come up with some way to,
Way to mitigate that amount
The
of
amount of hard surface.
somewhere else.
of hard surface, that's right.
Like,
You could shave off
Shave
some
it,
of the
yeah.
rear drive and,
Okay.
and, yeah, come up with a way to do it. Or, because you've got that front terrace also, maybe, you know, reduce the terrace.
Okay. That makes sense. If we're get within under the percentage by reducing some somewhere else, is that gonna lean us towards not have, or be within the requirements for the accessory structure? If it's the pervious
Mhm.
surface.
yeah, I think the case tonight is just to put the,
Correct.
Just the
right,
pool there.
right.
Correct.
And we're still under the allowed limit, but if we go above it, then it comes back here.
Sure.
And I know you want to avoid that. That would be, what, 4 times?
That would be 14, yeah. I'm Mims Cooper, I live at 308 La Playa Place, and the structure is next door to me at 306 La Playa Place. So I currently live in a house next door, and I bought the house I bought 306, and gonna tear down 306 and build a new home at 306.
So the lot is 13,000, almost 500, so.
Beg
one-
pardon?
The lot is 13,499, so 1% would be 139.
Yeah, we don't need much. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not gonna, it won't take a whole lot to,
Yeah, okay.
you know, bump over. And, but it also, I don't believe it'll take a whole lot to be able to make these numbers work. I think there are other places to shave off stuff. I'm not really concerned about it. I just wanted them to be aware that we needed to look at that again more closely. I didn't want that to hit you when you came to get a permit.
Yeah.
We don't need that, no.
No. It's roof, right?
Pardon?
It's not roof.
No, it's a courtyard.
Okay, okay. I don't know why suddenly I was thinking it's
there's a privacy wall around, or what's the,
There's a privacy wall on the driveway. I think there's a copy hopefully in that folder.
is that it?
Yes, sir.
I've got one here, I'll give you.
So, we've got a question, what would constitute an indoor pool? Like, would it require a roof, is that?
No, I don't know why, for half a second, I was thinking it was gonna be roofed, and I was wondering, why are we even here, but no.
Thank you, we can share.
The green line on this drawing is a hedge.
Keep it below 36 inches.
There's a considerable.
Make a motion to approve SV 220903.
I second that.
All right. Mr. Workley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is BZA case SV 220904, 1523 Roseland Drive. If you're here to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Trey Goldstein, 1527 Roseland Drive, Homewood.
I'm Tara Barber with Engineering Design Group, 120 Bishop Circle in Pelham.
The request is to reduce the setback from 10 feet to 6.7 feet, for a total reduction of 3.3 feet, while using the existing non-conforming foundation in order to rebuild the home and keep the second floor.
Okay. This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Does not appear that anybody would like to speak, so I will open up the case to the board for questions.
I guess I would note, as we go through these cases, we did receive one letter of support, which I forwarded to you, so there was one property owner in support of it.
On the side of the proposed addition, that side's within the setback variance, it's just the existing foundation that's that's non-compliant, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Mr. Chair, this was the one that Fred forwarded an email from me that was forwarded from Tara about stormwater management on this property. I'll just plug that in there for the record.
And I do have copies of that email with those drawings if the board would like to look at those.
I'll let Tara summarize.
Sure. So the footprint of the home, along with the parking area, will increase from what's currently out there. I believe the current zoning code allows a maximum of 10% increase in impervious area. We're below that 10% overall. So this is just our stormwater analysis showing the precondition versus the proposed condition, kind of the impervious areas between the two. And then just to note that the property is in the floodway. We're aware of that, and we'll go through the process in permitting to make sure we abide by the flood ordinance. So.
But there's no need for a variance on coverage. You're just pointing out that they have crossed their T.
I'm pointing out the trade decided to do the responsible thing and hire an engineer.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve SB 2209-04.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is BZA case SV 220905, 1032 Edgewood Boulevard. If you're here to speak on the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hey, my name is Andrew Flaggy. I'm here to talk about my own property. We're looking to do an addition, and it's going to be in the setback of the left side of the house. We're building off existing structure and citing hardship. We had a daughter born last October with special needs. Almost 24-hour care is required. So we're looking to do an addition to have my mother-in-law help out. So it's a master bedroom, master bath on the back of the house. We have support from our neighbor, Wayne Merchant, that lives in 1030 next door. I think there's an email that he sent in. That's basically it. Let me see if I missed something. Yeah, no, that's basically it.
This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak on the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Does not look like we have any takers, so I will open up the case to the board for questions. Looks like you're just extending the existing and the perimeter walls backward.
That's correct, yeah.
make a motion to approve SV 220905.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Workley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes. Your case has been approved by the board. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you.
Next case on the agenda is BZA case SV 220906, 613 Northmore Lane. You're here to present the case. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Billy Higginbotham. I live at 1523 Southern Place. I'm here on behalf of my daughter, who's also here. Give me a second, I'll write my name down. She's got a house in West Homewood, and it's got an existing non-conforming condition on the right-hand side. She'd like to add a master bed and bath and a screen porch across the back. She also has an odd-shaped lot. It's more pie-shaped. It's not really a rectangle. So we're here seeking a 3-foot variance for a non-conforming condition on the right-hand side and a 4-foot on the back because of the odd-shaped lot. And that's about it.
This is a public hearing. If you'd like to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Doesn't appear that anybody would like to do so, so I will open up the case to the board for questions. Just a one-story addition.
Yes, initially they had talked about going to, based on neighborhood. My mother said it'd destroy the character, or just kind of going off the back. Matching the brick, the drawings that we presented show siding, but the builder said he could do brick, so they just want it to look like it's always been there.
So it's just in that one little corner that it's 4 feet that you're
Yes.
requiring? I see.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We could get cute and do a sawtooth design, but I figured it'd look weird in the neighborhood.
Yeah, the backyard is huge. I was just trying to understand where the,
Well,
Where
initially,
you were
they
getting
didn't want to
pinched.
go into the backyard because they, want to have kids, but we assured them that they would save enough.
I motion to approve BZA case 22-09-06.
I second.
All right. Mr. Workley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes.
Thank
Case
you.
has been approved by the board. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is BZA case SV 220907, 505 Windsor Drive. If you're here to present the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hey there. I'm Ben Strout. I'm representing the homeowners, and I live at 713 Salter Lane, Homewood. The sign here, or does it matter?
Yeah, please fill in, please sign in.
So we are asking to do a covered walkway that would attach to a new carport that's on the side of the house. This is really to allow for covered access for what will eventually be wheelchair access for the homeowner. She's got a neurodegenerative disease that's kind of getting worse. And so we just wanted to have her main level covered access to the house. The existing front of the house actually already has a little bump out where that stone piece is. So we're coming out, I think it's like a foot further than that to allow the covered part to, where you can walk in between the columns in the house.
This is a public hearing. If you'd like to step forward and speak to the case, please do so at this time. We just ask that you state your name and address for the record and also fill in the sign-in sheet.
Thank you. My name is Anita Morgan. I live at 502 Devon Drive.
My name is Miranda Sueca, and I live at 504 Devon Drive.
So I'm here today, and forgive me because some of the terminology escapes me and I don't understand all of the words, so please forgive me if I don't make sense right off the bat. But when we saw the sign for the zoning, the yellow sign in the yard, naturally we were concerned, so we read the information when it became available in the packet. And all this gentleman's here today to talk about this one area, this covered area. It also includes what he just mentioned, was attaching it to a structure which currently does not exist. And that's what I'm here to question. This carport area that is not in existence right now. I'm concerned because when it is, if it is built, there is a tree line that runs along the side of my entrance to my home. It's an alleyway. Yes, it's an alley, but it's my only entrance and exit to my home. So there's a tree line there with a number of large hardwoods and a very large pine. And I have a great concern that some, if not all of those, are going to come down when they start putting up this structure. Again, I don't even know how you build a structure without permission. But that's one concern. And then another concern is when you look at the aerial photographs, which I have, is there something about, the total area of property that's been built, including this attachment, this carport being less than 50% of the property, the total property area? Do we have documentation that that's actually for real? Exists? That with this attachment, it's actually less than 50% of the total property area?
When they submit their building permit application, I'm pretty confident just by, looking at it, that it is under 50. And that's something that we always check and calculate when building permits come in. So when they submit a building permit for that detached carport on the.
Attached carport or detached?
Detached. Then that's something, and of course, when they submit for the porch, we'll also.
And will that be another meeting?
No, the detached carport, is compliant with setbacks. So it doesn't need a variance.
Okay, and the concern for the trees along the line?
If the trees are on her property, on the applicant's property, then she can cut them down if she wishes, and replace, she can replace trees if she doesn't meet the requirement, because they are her trees. If she chooses to cut them down, then, and she still has to have a certain number of trees, every property does, and we would just make sure that she meets that requirement. So if, say she were to cut down the trees that are there, and they were part of the required trees, that she would just have to plant a couple more.
Is that your plan then, to cut down the trees that are there?
The goal is to cut down as few trees as possible, always, number one, cut down the tree. If there's only one tree of any substance, it would be at risk of being cut down in this process, but, the main buffer that sits kind of at the top of the little crest as you're coming down the alley is not gonna be touched.
And they would have to protect the roots of the tree, during, the tree ordinance requires that they protect the root zone and, when they're doing construction. Or if the tree is within the limits of the construction area, then they may remove the tree and then just plant a different tree somewhere else. But,
If the tree's in the city right of way.
but if it's a city tree, then they would just have to protect the root zone and be sure not to injure the tree.
Or ask the city council to take the tree down.
Mhm.
And there's some debate over that because that alleyway, we're not sure how much part of that is the city's on the alleyway with the
Well, this is
greenery.
the first time that we've had this discussion about, whose tree it is, and, so that's something that we can certainly look at when we start reviewing plans and review this more closely. Since the detached carport was not a part of the variance,
Mhm.
it wasn't really something that we've studied as closely, but once we start reviewing it, we can certainly look at that tree and determine whose tree it is, and,
Well, and it's not just the one, it's the entire line.
Yeah, it's the whole
There's a
line.
Line of trees that
There's
are
like a
there.
whole-
There's
Well,
two giant
again,
hardwood trees.
Yeah.
we would look at those trees and see, if they need access from the alley and there's a tree there, then we would have to determine whose tree it is, and,
I love trees, I'm gonna do everything in my power to keep many of the trees.
We just wondered, like there's all of this right here, like in front of the house, there's a parking area here. Why it couldn't be put over here?
because that's not their property.
Yes, it is, that's their
That-
driveway.
That's their driveway. These weren't
Yes.
included in what they submitted. These were just from where
Yeah,
the house
yeah.
was sold, but.
Yeah,
Um,
because not all of that is their property.
I'm sorry, what part is not their property? That's
That's-
all their driveway.
That's all their property.
Yeah, it is.
No, you're not, it's not, it's right of way. Their house actually only sits 8 feet
Yeah,
from
there
their
is
front
right-
property
Right
line.
here. So there's,
So,
city has.
from where their house
Property right
sits,
here.
go
Right here.
8 feet, and that's their property. And
Mhm.
everything from there forward is not, is right of way.
Yes.
So
that's
all
true.
of that portion, not all of that driveway is on their property.
But up to the house, the closer to the house it is.
But there's a detached garage behind there, so you would be putting a
Covered
part-
walkway.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work
No, well,
because of the grade and everything that's going on over there.
yeah. I don't know. We aren't,
There yet.
well, no, we don't, it's not our property, and it wasn't something that we were gonna design for someone. It's what she is requesting, and, since it is her property and that's what she would like to do, you know, that's what she's requesting.
Well, I appreciate that. So when my property
Mhm.
that is right back, if you want,
502, right there, and I'm 504.
Right.
smallest, least expensive house in the neighborhood, right there, is going to back up.
Mhm.
Her carport is gonna be right there at my little small
You're talking
area
from
backyard.
That's her house right there, and that's where I'm the carport,
So
you're her house, that's how close it's gonna be.
it comes down to what she wants and what I want, and I would like to have the privacy that I have still, but she owns property, so she can have what she wants. You see, it's
Yeah,
like,
we all, yeah, yes, ma'am. It's, we
So,
all get
I
to
mean,
choose what we want to do with our properties. So,
whether or not it,
no, it's,
I see. Makes sense. Yep, I guess that's it, is if there's any other consideration that they'd like to make to not be quite on top of my property, that would be really nice.
And because that's your only way in and out of your house.
It is the only entrance
Only way in and out of your house is the alleyway.
every day, in and out of
Is this
that.
not the only spot on the upper level of this property that you can have ADA access to the front door? Isn't that the nature of this request?
that is the nature, that's the nature of this request.
Yeah.
They want a covered parking area, is what they want.
They want
Who
covered parking
doesn't?
at the main level. There's, I mean, they have a garage, but it's set down at basement level, and so, you know,
Double garage.
it's very steep, and it's not accessible when it comes time for her to be in a wheelchair. And I don't wanna be insensitive, I mean, like, I
And
don't
we're
wanna.
not
No one
we're
wants
not
to be
either.
insensitive
And we're not
to,
either.
absolutely not. That's
This
the
is-
absolute
I'm
last
trying,
thing.
like, we're trying to come up with a solution for her life as it moves forward, and it is an actual hardship.
Yeah, if you have to build it up there.
I can't levitate a carport out beside the house.
She loses everything.
Yeah. So, I'm just trying to give her a way to get into her house with groceries on her lap,
Well,
in a
what-
wheelchair.
What about from the,
There is no other way.
putting a driveway there in front and accessing it from the front and not from the alley?
What if you had to drive up to the front, and you didn't have covered parking for,
This might be a
I mean, like right
conversation that's
there is
better to
where-
have at another
I'm sorry.
time.
Well,
Putting the entrance right there
Right there.
instead of on top of me.
So wouldn't,
That would be for another time.
another
We
time.
have a
Sorry.
request before us
I
that is
appreciate it.
a
Thank
certain layout,
I
and
understand.
that's what,
Sure.
we
well, I
need
just
to-
wonder if, I
Thank
mean,
you
there's
so
still,
much.
Let's get through the public portion of the hearing. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone else here to speak to the case, please step forward. Does not appear to be the case, so I'll open up the matter to the board for questions.
Just for argument's
Yeah,
sake.
absolutely.
Like the property line is like way off from the street.
Yeah.
What is the actual dimension from like that front part to the front of the house, like
The-
6 feet?
It's
Yeah,
very
it's 9
close.
feet from the property line
Yeah.
to the front of the house is like 8 feet, it's 8
Yeah.
feet. And there's 26 feet, I believe, from the property line
Yeah.
to the back of curb.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
not like-
bizarre,
Not like you could do
There's
anything
this huge,
anyways.
yeah, there's a 70-foot right of way, and it just extends all along. It's very,
Yeah,
it's
it
very
looks-
close to
it
all of
looks
the houses
huge.
along that street.
it was very surprising when we got the survey back, because I didn't
And
really.
actually, we had, Fred, did, the woman who came in yesterday and spoke with me, she was gonna send another email to say that she now understands it. Did she do that?
She did send an email, but it was very short, saying that, having talked with you, she was not in opposition.
Yeah, I just
That
wanted
was
to
her
make sure
phrasing,
that
that she was
we-
not in opposition.
That there was no longer that opposition.
That's right. She didn't say she supported it, but she was not in opposition.
No, no, she was very nice when we spoke, and she, yeah.
It seems like whatever privacy that tree provides, there could be some other type of greenery planted in the vicinity. If we do in fact lose a tree, it would provide adequate screening.
Well, this, you know, again, there is the tree ordinances in effect and would apply to this, and
Yeah.
she would have to meet the required number of trees, the minimum tree density. And we don't know for sure that whether this is her tree or a right-of-way tree. We just don't have enough information to even be discussing this tree right now.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
it even looks like just where the other houses are, like, and where the carport's gonna be, I mean, you'd have to put the trees in front of the carport and lose her access to the carport.
Yeah, I think it's something that could be looked at and considered when they do their design.
I think so, but I feel like
Huh?
it's
Yeah.
just not gonna be mitigated, because you would have to cover the entrance of the carport
Right.
for them to have
I
like
don't know that.
privacy.
Mhm. Yeah, but it, you know,
I guess I'm kind of still struggling to understand what you're proposing exactly.
So the carport would be pretty much, I mean, it's almost exactly at grade of the interior plane of the house. And that actually happens to line up perfectly with the grade of the alley. And so that actually, like, it was pretty fortunate that all of those things align as well as they do to be able to give her the access that she needs to the house to be able to have this
But-
be a
but
long
I
term.
guess you're creating a walkway from that carport.
Yep.
Onto the front, which is making the existing non-conforming condition worse.
on the front.
A
on the
little bit
front.
on the front.
And there's no way to get in the side of the house on grade?
No, that whole side is bedrooms, so we would have to go into a bedroom or into a bathroom. So, also, like, not to mention that the front of the house, it's a good-looking house, but it's just like one giant roof.
Mhm.
And I think adding this front porch actually makes it much more attractive. I mean, it adds a lot of character to the facade of the thing. And it's definitely a bigger ask than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I assumed there would be some sort of a setback on the front. Just, it seemed like it was close, but I had no idea it was gonna be, you know, when we got this, I've been asking for a survey since we started the design on the thing. We're
Yeah.
like, we need a survey, we need a survey, we need a survey. And they finally gave me the survey. I was like, kind of ridiculous, like, it seems ridiculous that the house was built where it was built to begin with. I don't understand.
What's the width of the covered walkway in the front?
Just 4 feet.
Okay, just 4 feet.
And again, there's no side yard setback ask. It's just
No.
the front yard setback ask. Yeah.
So the real concern that the neighbors addressed really doesn't have much to do with the variance request. The variance
Exactly.
request
Right.
is on the front of the property.
Why is the right-of-way so large right there?
I don't know, you know, that was a conversation.
That is
the
the bizarrest right-of-way I've ever seen.
It's real, at the, if you're facing the house toward the left and you're going around there, it starts to curve. the house that's in the curve is actually, I found an old survey for it, and it's 5.9 feet from the front property line. All of those houses are, it's just, it's so bizarre, but they are all that way. And I think I said in the report, when you look at the aerial of the house, the next door neighbor house, that car is straddling the front property line. The car that's in the photo, in that image, it's straddling the front property line. It's just, I have no idea. But when I did, it was the woman next door at 507 is who came in yesterday, and we talked about it for a long time. And, you know, I said, well, maybe when it was platted back in the 20s, they expected this to be a main thoroughfare. But she had all of this history that she was able to share, and she was going, oh no, you know, it was never planned that way. It was just, but I have no idea. I don't know why. It's just one of those mystery things.
What's the width of the drive into the carport?
It would be you're talking about from the alley?
Yes.
Are we talking, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 20 feet.
Okay.
We can narrow it
It
down.
looks large from that drawing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it like 21?
Yeah, it's probably 21 feet, yeah.
So it can't be greater than 20.
At the,
Okay. Well, we can narrow that down for here. Absolutely.
well, at the
At the
right of way.
right of way. That's fine. That's not a big deal.
Oh, and another thing, that I believe I mentioned in the report, and something that I found while doing research, it's a zoning lot. At some point, they apparently did a resurvey years ago, it was never recorded. So, we'll need to take care of that before a building permit can be issued to combine those two lots and make them one. But it's an administrative process, it's not a big deal, I just wanted you to be aware.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve SV 220907.
Second.
All right. Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is BZA case SV 220908, 225 Point Sienna Drive. If you're here to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Let's see. My name is Adam Millhouse. I've been working with Richard and Holly Simmons over the past 5 months or so to develop a landscape design that incorporates a small pool into their backyard. We're asking for a variance that will allow us to increase the permeability to the site despite the existing conditions being over the 50% limit. In regards to adjacent easements and their proximity to the pool, Richard and Holly Simmons have been granted permission by the Jefferson County Environmental Services Department in regards to the sewer, Alabama Power, and the Birmingham Water Works Board regarding the area behind the pool. Worth noting, neighbors have emailed Mr. Goodwin with their positive remarks, and to our knowledge, there's no opposition to the pool, or to the development, rather.
This is a public hearing. If you'd like to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Going once, going twice. All right, I will close the public portion of the hearing and open up the case to the board for questions. submitted engineered drawings?
No, everything, we do not have engineered drawings as far as like drainage is concerned. Everything on here is more or less hardscape and planting layout, and I don't know if y'all have 3 sheets. Do y'all have 3 sheets?
We have like 10.
Okay, photos. Okay. Yes, so then as far as, that is, there, yep. Correct. And then there's, yeah, so so L2, shows a side-by-side comparison. The reason for the variance is, from a permeability standpoint, and again, it is worth noting, this is an improvement to the site, though as stated, we are over that 50% mark. But this L2 and L3 are comparisons side by side of existing and proposed.
Is the engineering requirement in place yet from a permitting standpoint?
No, not unless you wanted a proper one, certainly.
Do you feel like it's necessary?
I don't know, so what Adam said is correct, that it's gonna be certainly a better condition than it was before, which was the same on a few other cases that we've seen, but we've made them mitigate stormwater from the 50% up to the percentage that they were over in cases in the past few months. That's what we seem to land on. But that sort of came to us prepared. You know, like that was kind of the proffer to start off with. There's not, the Birmingham Waterworks Board owns a 50-foot right-of-way behind the house, and that's where all the stormwater goes from this street and the one behind it. So I don't know if you've thought through that, but this is certainly something to think about for you guys, I guess.
And I believe I added a note, maybe.
Yeah, I was about to read it, just for the record.
Yeah, that was something that Mr. Kendrick had directed when I was discussing other things with him. This was his directive from now forward.
Yeah, so just for your information, cases that have been presented to this board previously under similar circumstances where you're asking to exceed that allowable pervious area have been contingent upon engineered design of a system that will perform to the level of something that is compliant.
Sure.
So that's something that needs to be engineered and
Yeah.
proven through calculations
Sure.
and documentation to the city engineering department. But that is consistent with the way that we've evaluated
In the past.
cases in the past.
Sure.
Sherry, can we just talk about this
Absolutely.
note?
I need to correct my statement. This note will apply to every variance. Yeah, every variance. So it should have applied to every variance tonight. I thought it was every variance where there was a lot coverage request, from the 50%, above the 50%. But it's going to be for every variance that increases the footprint in any way.
does that mean for us it remains to be, even if we don't say it, then it's gonna be required anyways?
Eventually, it's coming.
Eventually, right now, it's not, right now it would not be a requirement,
Yeah.
just automatically. It would have to be a part of your approval or your
But it
motion.
can't-
Right,
it
but
can-
also on the cases that have already been approved tonight, on the ones that there is a concern about, there won't be any issue with getting the contractors and the architects that we've seen
Yeah.
mitigate stormwater. Yeah.
So for these guys, they haven't seen the note yet, so I'm
Right,
gonna
right.
read it to them. It says,
Okay.
according to the city attorney, any lot coverage variance must require that an engineered stamped no adverse impact report be provided as a contingency to approval and must be provided to the city engineer prior to obtaining a permit related to any aspect of the variance.
So is that a step that we missed, or that was an?
No, that's just a contingency to the approval that would then
Sure.
subsequently have to be followed up on
Followed.
prior to issuance of any kind of
Okay.
permit.
Sure.
And your site lays out actually easier than any of the other ones.
It's positive.
Yeah.
For everybody's
Yeah.
sake.
There's an easy, simple solution.
Sure.
Yeah.
I move to approve BZA case 22-09-08 on the contingency that they send in the required structural drawings, engineer drawings.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve SV 220908 with the contingency that any lot coverage variance must require an engineered stamped no adverse impact report that's provided to the city engineer prior to obtaining permit related to any aspect of the variance.
I'll second that.
All right, so, Mr. Wortley, you are making the motion, and Ms. Hand is seconding? Okay, I'm sorry. All right. 1 second. All right, based on Mr. Wortley's recitation of that contingency, I will take a vote. All right, Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yes.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes. Your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
And just so I make sure I understand, I need to get the engineered stuff coordinated as well to pull the permit.
Yes.
Okay. In not legal terms is.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, I will. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is BZA case SV 220909 377 Lucerne Boulevard. If you're here to present the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Ryan DeLesio. I'm the homeowner. I live at 1701 First Avenue South at the time being until I can eventually move into Lucerne Boulevard. Tonight I'm requesting a half-a-foot variance on the left side of my property and an 8-foot variance on the back right-hand corner of the property. My hardship is that once we got inside the house and started doing the renovation, we had the building inspector come over and come to find out that the addition to the house that was built by the previous owner was done completely wrong. And we had, basically our option was to tear it down and have to rebuild it. And having done that, I am now non-compliant to the footprint of the house. And we have rebuilt the house on that footprint. And that's where I'm at tonight.
This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak to the case, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. All right, we will open up the case to the board for questions. You're building back on an existing footing,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is there an alley behind you, or is it adjacent property?
There's another picture. That's someone's property, but their house is upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
There's a power line right away in the back, but as far as the home that's behind me, it's all the way over. There's no house behind me.
Gotcha.
And both of the neighbors on either side, they're aware of what's going on. I believe I dropped letters off that they wrote for this and their approval.
Great. I move to approve BZA case 22-09-09.
I second.
All right. Mr. Wortley,
Yes.
Mr. Alsabrook,
Yes.
Mr. Perkel,
Yes.
Ms. Hand,
Yeah.
and Mr. Foley.
Yes, your case has been approved. You have 180 days to pull your permit.
Thank you very much.
And last but not least is consideration of the recommended changes to the city's fence and wall ordinance. Has everyone had a chance to review the proposed changes to the ordinance?
Yes.
Yes. Are there any comments to offer at the meeting? I know that we've had some comments by email that we plan to send on to council and staff for consideration, but if there's anything else to note during
Mr.
the
Perkle had a question that I couldn't answer earlier.
You do have an answer, or would you?
No,
Okay.
the Sherry may though.
Okay.
I have an answer?
You probably do.
Inquiry on section K, number 1, general regulations, item C. Just wanted clarification, and it can be now or it can be later, but the reasoning for exceeding 12 inches in height. It says, no exterior fence or wall exceeding 12 inches in height shall be erected, installed, constructed, or otherwise altered, except in strict compliance with the terms and provisions. I'm just curious.
Where that number came from?
Yes,
What page is that on?
that is gonna be on page 3.
I told Michael I wasn't sure where that number came from.
And it can be answered later. I just wanted to bring that up in the session to,
I think it is a building code reference because, and I could be wrong, but because Wyatt Pugh also went through this with us, and he made comments, and some of the comments are building code related. So it could be that the 12-inch is a building code kind of trigger, you know, where it would, yeah.
if I could just get clarification
Yeah,
on that, that'd be perfect. To just
I would
later.
almost guarantee that that's what it is because of the way that it is written. And is there something that you would rather it say?
Does it a concern to you? Would you rather it be
It
anything,
was-
or do you want it to be any of them regardless of height, or?
I wanted to verify that this is the correct height that they're proposing so we can enforce accordingly if requested, and then just understanding why the height of that. So if you had a natural fence, if you have to put a shrub on your side of your property, then if it's over 12 inches, you're saying we have to have a permit. Just curious, this
Well-
reason?
Like you're wondering if it's arbitrary?
Yes.
Yeah,
If that height could be raised to 24 inches, or if there's a reason why it's 12 inches, so I can uphold these ordinances.
okay.
For the record, I would just, I guess, sort of, I guess, repeat what William had emailed, which is, just so we can pick them up in the minutes, which was about section, find out what section I'm in. K. Number 2. D. Fences and walls shall be set back a minimum of 9 feet from a street right-of-way and 5 feet from an accessible alley. The 5 feet is intended to be from the property line that's adjacent to the accessible alley.
Correct.
Okay. And then there was a response from me and a response from you.
Correct. Do you have your email?
I do?
Because that's what I was trying to get to, and I
Yeah.
can't seem to get to it.
Sherry's response was about adjacent alleys. I think y'all landed on, the intent was not to have anyone give up their yard, but trying to consider alley traffic. Maybe instead of requiring a 5-foot setback for alley adjacent fences, perhaps we could say that fences placed closer than 5 feet to a property line, run parallel to an accessible alley, requires a current survey dated within 12 months of a fence permit application, and approved by the city engineer. That would allow fences to be placed on a property line when it works.
When it's not going to be.
A hazard.
Yeah, or a hazard obstruction or cause it.
I would also just point out that in the same email, he made a suggestion, Mr. Siegel, Twin, which I thought was good, that if this does pass with council and it goes to them, that they put a 90 or 120-day grace period in, so anybody who's under design right now isn't adversely affected because they are spending money
Yeah.
in designing.
I'd like to make a second comment in regards to the 5-foot alley. So it mentions in here that if you have to repair your fence, and if you're out of compliance, will we require to have a survey and get it permitted to repair your fence?
I think there's a threshold that goes from
Okay.
a repair to,
It's like a 20%, or there's a percentage,
Okay.
like ordinance. But I think the answer is yes. If somebody wanted to tear down their fence and put up a fence in the exact same spot, then they would need a survey for that.
If I wanted to put in a new gate, I would have to get a new survey?
No,
Okay.
no.
That's what I wanted to confirm.
no.
no.
And what did we settle on? What number did we end up settling on? Was it
About what?
when it goes from just maintenance and repair to,
It says 25,
Okay.
25%.
so, yeah, I mean.
So that would work. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you.
that's,
addressed in the ordinance?
They are, well, they're retaining walls that actually retain aren't really
They're
in
building
here
code.
as, they're not regulated by this because it's not above ground. The part that is above ground, and is not, like, if it's not really a retaining wall, if it's just a wall, a decorative wall, that's gonna be in here. A retaining wall is different. And we do have a provision in here that, let's say you do have a retaining wall that, and then it is 2 feet above ground also, you can put a fence on top of that retaining wall, as long as you don't exceed your maximum height. But yeah, retaining walls are gonna be
Elsewhere.
elsewhere.
No further comments from me.
I did, want to ask that you, because you see the variances for corner lots. And, you know, we changed that definition, and hopefully this will help reduce the number of variances that you have to see for accessory structures on a corner lot. So if you read through it and see if it kind of makes sense to you, and, or you think it needs to be tweaked.
The only, and I haven't studied this up and down, but the only thing that sticks out to me is the definition of the primary front and the secondary front. Like, how is that determined? I think what I've read before is like, it's the length, the shorter length of the house, which,
The shortest property line is the primary front.
yeah, so there are cases when that, in my house in particular, that would not apply.
Well,
So,
let's say that a tornado came through and wiped your house out, and you had a blank lot. You would have the primary front.
or does address play into it? 'Cause
No, it's really just for determining placement and,
And there may just be the rare occurrence where you have to deal with
Yeah.
it, but.
Sounds like a hardship to me, man.
think you should get a variance, apply for a variance.
Turn my mic off.
And come by tomorrow and Fred will hook you up.
to build?
It doesn't, it's for determining yards. It really has nothing to do with the house. Your house would be okay. We're not gonna come make you move your front door.
But I mean,
I
to your
understand
point,
what you're saying.
some of them have like radiuses on the, you know, that are on the corner. So,
Yeah,
you know, that's, but it's hard to pick up all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't cover everything, and
But I guess it is defined elsewhere that the short end of the stick is the front.
but we actually spent a lot of time on this definition. I read it and he drew it until it drew right, you know, like he physically drew it on paper.
Any other comments, things to add? All right. I think that's what we offer up as a board. So with that, I will close the September.
Can I, clarification? Well, let me make sure. I'm trying to determine, we talked a little bit earlier about the discussion that would be held by board members as relating to these draft recommendations going forward to the council. So, what was your comment just then? Let me make sure I understood what you said just then.
Mine really was thinking out loud and
Yeah.
coming back to the realization that primary and secondary front are defined already. No comment, really.
I was only toying with wording as we were sitting here, but I didn't know if I'm not, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but in essence, is the board authorizing staff to address and incorporate where appropriate the comments and issues identified during the meeting as part of the draft recommendations? Is that?
Yeah,
Is
I would
that
also add
sort
that,
of what we're,
that the emails that we've been sent, the comments and questions, and responses provided by staff also be passed along, formalized however you.
yeah, so
fit.
that's what I'm saying, authorizing staff to take the comments that were made here tonight and where appropriate, incorporate them into these draft recommendations that have been presented to you and have been presented to the council. And based on that, forward them to the council for their consideration.
Yes, thank you.
Is that,
You worded it very nicely.
okay, I just want to make sure I understand. Okay.
Fred, do they need to
Make a motion?
make a motion to,
I-
or not?
It
Talk about that in the pre-meeting.
Make a motion to add
never
comments.
hurts to make a motion
Yeah.
and get a consensus of
Right.
the members. So if someone would like to make a motion to the effect of what we just said,
I'll try it here. Make a motion here to take the language and discussions and emails that were presented in regards to the new ordinance for the fence and wall, that the staff would verbalize and put forth our comments together
as part of the
as
draft
part of the
recommendation.
draft, yes.
All right, okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Sam, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Okay,
Ayes have it.
thank you. I
Is
appreciate
that
it.
all? All right, so that wraps up the September Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting for the city of